What is going on with silver? Are we reaching a uptrend that's taking a pause? Is this week the beginning of a downtrend? Is it time to be buying silver like 10-ounce bars, silver rounds, American silver eagles, or maybe even junk silver? This is old US currency that's 90% silver. Or is it time to go into the stock market and forget about precious metals? What's going on with silver? Hi YouTube, it's John, the motorcycles, music, and money guy, coming to you quickly to talk about what's going on with silver. But before I do that, hey, take a look at this video. I want you to watch it. Got some decent information in there, pretty good information. Hopefully you enjoy it. Hit that like button. Check out some of my other videos on the channel. I've got a few more on precious metals, some on financial literacy, and some just for fun, and my old 30 Seconds for Success personal development videos. So thanks, and let's get talking about silver. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on with silver and what we've seen in the silver market over the last few weeks. First off, I'm not an expert. There's no real license. I mean, people can be a commodities broker, but you know, the folks that post videos on YouTube and talk to you about precious metals, all of us are just like you. There's not a securities license that you have to buy and sell silver like you might have to be a stockbroker. I am a licensed life insurance agent. You know, your property and casualty company, your life company, they have to be licensed agent. But these are my opinions. This is what I'm learning as I get back into collecting and stacking precious metals. I don't really do coin collecting. I'll talk a little bit about that. But I do want to accumulate more precious metals. And I'll talk about some of the reasons why and some of the reasons what's going on in the silver market right now, in my opinion, is giving us a chance to buy silver at a discount to what it will likely be trading at over the next few years. Definitely, if we look at this from a long-term perspective, I think some things, and a lot of other people agree, that some things are going on with the silver market that just aren't sustainable. I'm not going to go into a lot of details about JP Morgan getting caught manipulating the price of silver, but there are other videos out on YouTube that talk about that. That's a real concern that people have. So what's been happening lately is this year has been good for both gold and silver. But the price of silver has not gone up like the price of gold has. What is called the gold and silver ratio, which I'll talk about in a moment, is at a fairly high level, one of the highest levels we've seen in a few years. The price of silver is also not as high compared to what it costs to produce silver as gold is. And so I'll talk about that. And then I'll just talk about historically what's been going on with the price of silver. So even after this year's increase and with what's going on in the use of silver is, I think, even with a lot of talk about a recession, we've had a lot of talk about recession for months, haven't we? But with all the talk about what's going on with the recession fears and the possible slowdown in activity economic activity, get my words in the right order, I really don't think we're going to see the demand for silver drop off anytime in our lifetime. I'm 57, so let's just say the next 25, 30 years, I cannot imagine less silver being used. A lot of people think silver use and demand is going to skyrocket way past our ability to produce it at a economically viable activity, right? A mine has to be able to know they're going to make money on their silver to be in mining, right? It's like any business. If I make widgets and you don't want to buy widgets at a price that allows me to run my factory, I'm not going to make widgets unless I have to, right? There's what's called fixed cost. I'm not going to give you an economics lesson. I used to teach fixed cost and fixed margin and contribution margin. Not going to do that today. But that's the real bottom line, right? If a silver mine or any metal mine cannot produce metal economically, and be able to sell it at a good margin, they just won't produce it. They'll save it in the ground. They won't spend the money on salaries and equipment and refining cost, but we demand a ton of silver, just about everything we own, right? My cell phone, this laptop, these speakers, my camera, probably half my car because it's a hybrid. It has battery, it has tons of electronics in it. Just think of all the silver that's being used around us and think that the silver price is not going up. So I'm going to show you a couple charts. I'm going to switch off my camera and go to sharing my screen. But let's talk a little bit about some historical things going on in the price of silver and what's called the gold silver ratio. Okay, so here we are. We're looking at the macrotrends.net website, and this is the historical price of silver. Now, the good thing about this website, why I'm using it for this video, is I probably should zoom my screen in a little bit where we can just see the chart. But if you come down here, you can see at the bottom of the center of the screen, these chronological bar there is showing the years. I can't scroll it here inside my window, but you can see there that you can expand and contract that ruler. And I've got it set right now that we're roughly looking at the price of silver for the last 10 years. If we go back further than about 10 years, the price of silver drops, and it drops precipitously back to shortly after the time the Hunt brothers tried to corner the silver market. That was the all-time high in silver. It reached $50 an ounce. After that, it dropped. But think about that a little bit. If we go back 40 years to 1983, 1984, and we think the price of silver was, let's just say, 1/3 of what it is now. Well, what other products do you think you could buy today for only 3 times what they were? If you look at a compounding 5% inflation that we've had roughly on average since then, things have gone up crazy amounts. We do an illustration in one of our financial literacy classes that a loaf of bread in 1982 cost 52 cents. Today, the national average is $3.50 something cents. I think 3.58 if my memory is correct. So think about what that means. That means that price of bread has gone up 7 times. Silver has not gone up 7 times. But if we look at a shorter time frame, 10 years ago, let's just kind of average it right around $30 an ounce. Well, silver last week fell below $25 an ounce. And some people are thinking that silver has dropped, and it may have set a short-term high at $25 an ounce. But if we look at it over the last 2 or 3 years, silver has been trading in that range between about $24, maybe $23. Down here, we had a dip down to 18, early last year. That'd have been a great time to buy some silver. But if we look at it, the price of silver has been basically flat over the last 10 years. And think what has happened over the past 10 years and why I think anybody saying that, silver has broken down and it's going to fall from its recent high, I don't think that's accurate. I think we're going to enter into a longer term bullish trend in silver, just because of reality, right? Because look at this price, and then let's go over to. Oh, sorry, I had some other windows open. Checking a couple of my videos out, how they were doing. The other tab I have open is what's called the gold and silver ratio. And when you look at the gold silver ratio, that is simply the ratio of how many ounces of silver, because that's the second number, you're dividing into the first number, right? In a true ratio, miles per gallon. We divide how many gallons we use to go a certain number of miles, and we get our miles per gallon. Well, the same thing, we take the price of gold, we divide it by the per ounce price of silver, and we get a gold silver ratio. When that ratio is high, it means it takes an awful lot of silver to buy a lot of ounces of silver. So these, silver rounds are 1 ounce each. My bar that I think this bar is going to be the all-time star of my videos. I should I should put a little tick on one of them so I see which one I always use. Let it make sure it gets all the credits. Just kidding. But, why, if it takes, well, like say right now, if you look at this, it takes over 8 of these to buy 1 ounce of gold. I don't have my Krugerrand with me. It's the only piece of gold I have that's a 1 ounce piece, but it takes 8 of these. Well, when the price of silver goes up relative to gold, that's when you see these lower numbers on the chart. And that means it's taking less silver to buy an ounce of gold. But if you look at this ratio, it's up. This is about a 20-year chart. You see that we are up near the highs across the whole chart, which means gold has advanced to, and the reality is gold has advanced to near its all-time high. It didn't quite get there. It's come down a little bit too over the last week or so, but it's much closer to its all-time high than silver is. Now, yes, that was an artificial market when the Hunt brothers tried to corner the market, but even then, adjusted for inflation, silver has not kept up. While the amount of money supply, the cost of most every other good has gone up out of proportion to silver. There are many theories for why this happens, but that's the gold silver ratio. And if you notice, we're up around 80, a little bit above 80 right now. It's been in the high 70s. I think the lowest it's gotten since I've been tracking it over the last month or two is about 78. It's now back above 80, which means the price of silver is falling more than the price of gold. So, talking about the gold and silver ratio, if you see that the ratio is high like that, it's not an optimal time to buy silver compared to gold. But we also have to look at the absolute value of silver by itself, because let's be honest, most of us, unless we're going to buy a lot of 1/10 gold ounce gold medallions or coins, we have gold jewelry, and our ability to get more gold jewelry without a premium markup for the workmanship coming into it. Gold may not be as practical as an investment. And at the same time, silver, because of its massive economic uses as we move toward many more EVs on the road, solar panels being required on houses in many countries and states here in the US, the demand for silver is going to go up. I really don't see that ratio widening anymore. Sometimes it gets to about 100, which means it takes 100 ounces of silver to buy 1 ounce of gold. I think we're going to see it go the other direction, and the amount of silver it takes to buy gold is going to drop. And those of us that then have extra silver in our stack can buy more gold. Now, obviously we're going to be paying a little premium right now if we could buy that gold. But, with gold near an all-time high, silver so far from an all-time high, that's one reason I am increasing my silver purchases. I'm going to talk very briefly about the silver. I'm putting away some of my junk silver just so I don't forget it and leave it out. There may be some much more to the market manipulation. There are other videos that talk about this. The fact of the matter is, and then I'll start to wrap up. The fact of the matter is that there are two different silver markets, and unfortunately, the one that controls the price of silver is artificial. What I mean by artificial is it's very highly leveraged, where the COMEX Silver Exchange is where paper futures for silver are sold. One future is basically 5,000 ounces of silver. So most of us, if you're buying and selling those, you probably don't ever want to take delivery of all that silver. There are some people that do that, but it's mainly a trading vehicle. Well, COMEX, if I said right now, okay, I'm going to sell you my silver stack, I'd have to count up, my 2 bars, like my star here, the star of my videos, my silver rounds, my junk silver, my other silver bars, some 50-cent pieces that may be that are more closer to collectibles than they are actually the silver. So we'd have to determine what we're doing with those. But you would only pay me for the silver I had, and I'd only give you the physical silver I have. That's not what happens on the spot COMEX market. These futures buy and sell and trade, but they're almost never settled in silver. They're settled either for cash or they're just wiped out by the buying and selling of them. And there are huge amount different of how much silver spot or how much silver futures are traded and how much physical silver actually backs those at COMEX. It's almost like the fractional banking you see at your bank, where they have a very small reserve of cash and they have all these assets and liabilities. And that's why you see bank runs. Well, if everyone that owns silver futures let those expire, let those mature and demanded their silver, they could get all the silver out of the COMEX pretty quickly. What sets the silver spot price, which drives the physical market as well, is the most highly traded near contract. It isn't a certain date in the future, like always the second future out, or the long-term future, or the next future, if you're familiar with how futures and options work. None of those. It's the most active one that day or that moment. Now, as someone who watches the market, used to be licensed as a securities licensee, that means the most volatile, the most heavily traded spot for a paper contract with very little silver actually behind it sets the price for this, a physical, tangible product. You can make your own judgments about that. I do believe the price of silver is artificially low because of that, because there's so much trading and it's just a trading vehicle. And there have been cases, they're maybe not universal, where there's smoke, there may be fire, but JP Morgan had a trader who was front running and actually faking silver trades to manipulate the silver market. How widespread that is not proven, but if one is doing it in a hyper competitive industry, again, you have to make your own decision. I think if they are trying to truly manipulate the price of silver, and they have for a long time, first off, they know what they're doing, but also when that fails, when the price of extracting silver continues to go up, when the demand for actual physical silver and not just contracts skyrockets as we continue to use more and more silver in electronics and solar panels and EVs, I truly think the price of silver is going to correct upward. That's my opinion, but that is also why I am buying more silver. Money Metal Exchange is a great online broker. There's a link in the bottom, in the description, that if you buy for the first time from them and you mention my name, we both get free silver. You don't have to do that, but I'd appreciate it. If you're already a customer of theirs, you're already a customer of another bullion dealer, ingot dealer, that's great. Love to hear your comments, also what you think. But again, the reason I am accumulating silver is, I think the price of it, even though it's dipped a little this last week or two, we're getting an ability to buy at a discount to what the true economic value of silver is. I'm John, the motorcycles, music, and money guy. Hope you've learned something from this video. I've enjoyed making it. I've got some others on the channel I invite you to take a look at, and I will chat with you later.